Welcome back. 2 weeks have passed since the horrific attacks on Israeli civilians and citizens by Hamas, and the world holds its breath, awaiting the next move by the Israeli Defense Forces. After pummeling targets inside Gaza, it's assumed that their highly risky ground incursion cannot be long postponed. To give us some insight, I'm pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, one of the many reservists who's returned to active duty with the IDF. Peter, thank you for joining us on GB News from, I think, Tel Aviv. I was just saying that the ground offensive cannot be long postponed, but I wonder whether I've got that right. I mean, it seems to me that it is such a risky operation that maybe it will still be a long time coming. What do you think?
So here's what we know. Day 16 of our operation, Michael, is in the stage of intensifying our strikes against Hamas, their infrastructure, their leaders, their operators, everything that they have utilized from their position of a government of Gaza in order to subordinate it to the act or the brutal massacre of so many Israelis on the 7th of October. So the ground operation is potentially there. We are, mobilizing reservists. 300,000 reservists is the largest recruiting of reservists in the history of the IDF. And so when we look, we are taking the necessary preparations in order to be ready for a green light from the government, and that when the operational terms and conditions are aligned with the broader goals of our operation. So I'd say what we're doing now currently is training, equipping, making sure that each and every unit knows what their task will be if the green light is given.
You don't need telling that, of course, if one's trying to find any joined-up thinking in what Hamas has done, it is to lure Israel into various traps. One, to retaliate at a level which goes beyond what global opinion will tolerate. Another, to end the rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And another, to lure the Israeli Defense Forces into Gaza, where in a situation of urban warfare, they could be massacred. But I'm sure you're very aware of those multiple traps.
Well, while the threat and challenge of every defense force, every military force operating in urban warfare, especially against a merciless enemy like Hamas, is, of course, of concern and a challenge, we only have to look back 2 weeks and 1 day now to realize what they've already done to our people. So really, they've left us not only with no choice, but no other option. And when they came into our bedrooms and butchered our babies, they basically sealed their own destiny of being banished from the realm of existence. Indeed, when we mobilize, if we mobilize on the ground and seek out Hamas, there is a chance that there will be casualties on our side, but we will operate in order to make sure that they never, ever have that power of government, a terrorist government, a government that utilizes all of its powers to build a horrific force, instructs those horrific forces to conduct brutal massacres, executions, rape, abduction. They can't ever have that power again. So it's sometimes in some of the other news channels there, people keep it's an issue of revenge. This isn't a war of retribution. It's a war of existence, because this terrorist organization is trying to set a new norm for terror against Israel. But they're also sending a message to terrorist organizations around the world that this is what we do in order to achieve our political goals. And terrorism is exactly that. And that is why we are determined to make sure that our people will be never threatened again by this organization. And even if there are local ramifications with regard to our operations within Gaza, but also regional, and the threat of Hezbollah is also a substantial threat. And that's why we are taking those precautions in order to be prepared on all fronts. But nevertheless, the paradigm that has existed for the last 16 or 17 years since Hamas came to power in Gaza has to change.
I feel sure that Israel has good intelligence, for example, on the network of tunnels, which is said to run under Gaza. But on the other hand, one must have some doubts, because there has clearly been a dramatic and historic failure of Israeli intelligence for those attacks of 2 weeks ago to have occurred?
So, as you said in my introduction, they called me up for reserve duty. And while this surprise was a strategic surprise with regard to Hamas's intentions, there have not been any tactical surprises, because we knew about the Nukhba forces that they were building. We've seen them training. We know the magnitude. We know how many, what type of weapons they have. We know about their explosive drones. We know about their different rocket capabilities. We know where they're hiding out. As you implied, we know how extensive their tunnel mechanisms is and how they are operating and using them. So we're confident we have good intelligence, but the realm of warfare is it's not the known knowns, it's the unknown knowns. And so we know that we have a brutal enemy. We don't know exactly what they're doing. We have a good grasp of their operational capabilities, and we need to confront that and remove that as if it was a tumor.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. Let us hope that in whatever happens next, the death toll may be just as low as can possibly be.